Otakuology podcast with Otaku Mike and Jin Graves.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Otakuology podcast. I'm your host, Otaku Mike. With me, as always, is your co-host and my co-host, Jin Graves.
Yes, what a prestigious gentleman he is.
How's it going, guys? So today we are looking at a new manga called Frieren Beyond Journey's End. This is a book that I picked up, and I was like, hey, Jin, let's read this book. A lot of people are starting to talk about it. It's starting to go around the manga Grammy, and I think it might be good. And Jin was like,
what's a manga Grammy?
Manga Grammy? It's like manga Instagram.
Okay.
Or
I was thinking of like the Grammys.
or it's like, you know, your grandma who likes manga and you call her Grammy.
Does anybody's grandma know about manga?
But she's the manga Grammy.
Oh my god.
I don't know. If any grandma knows about manga, that would be kind of cool if they did.
That'd be weird. I mean, I would just say probably mistakes were made if their grandma and their kid's kid already knows about it, because most of the people that it came out was, you know, our age.
When you think about it, like, eventually there will be manga Grammys, because some people will get old and have children, and those children will have children, and, you know, they'll have manga, you know, so.
That's true. I wonder how many kids there are that are out there right now that are like, my grandma had the first publication of da-da-da-da, and she sold it off. What the hell?
My grandma had the first publication of Akira.
Right. Or 20th Century Boys, or anything else, and people get upset about it and like, how could you sell it off, Grandmammy?
Yeah.
I can't believe it.
I know. But this is a new fantasy series, and I was like, let's read this for the podcast and talk about it. And Jen was like, I don't know. I'm on a buying ban. I don't want to pick up any new series, because Jen has too many manga that he's reading at the moment.
Yeah.
Correct?
Well, Jen has too many manga he needs to buy.
Or Jen has too many manga he needs to buy, because he was on a year-long buying ban at that time. But a couple times. He was like, okay, fine, I'll pick it up, and we will talk about it, you know.
Yeah.
And can I just say, I'm glad we finally got a fantasy novel that's not an isekai and that has a really, really long name. I just gotta say that. I just gotta say that. You know, it's simple, not based on a light novel. You know,
also true. Watch, we'll find out that it's based on a light novel later on.
If it's based on a light novel, I'm gonna flip my shit. I'm not gonna lie, like, I'm kind of on like a anti-light novel isekai manga adaptation at the moment, because I've been burned so many times, and I just think a lot of the adaptations have sucked.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, I don't want to pick any more of those up. Like, I'm very weary about picking them up. But once I found out this was not an isekai, even though I love isekais, I love good isekais, not piss poor isekais. We'll just say that.
This isn't an isekai, though.
I know it's not an isekai. That's why I'm saying that's what I'm saying. It's cool that we're getting a fantasy series that's not an isekai. That's not, I got reincarnated in another world and I'm trapped in a room fucking a demon lord while I'm getting magical powers or something like that. I don't know. You know. But let's get into this.
Yeah, are you going to read the back?
Because this is our second time recording this, because we fucked up the first time, just saying. So elf mage Frieren and her courageous fellow adventurers have defeated the Demon King and brought peace to the land. But Frieren will
Huzzah.
long outlive the rest of her former party. How will she come to understand what life means to the people around her? Decades after her victory, a funeral of one of her friends confronts Frieren with her own near immortality. Frieren sets out to fulfill her last wishes of her comrades and finds herself beginning a new adventure. I didn't fuck that up nearly as bad as last time.
True. Very true.
But you want to start us off?
Yeah. So we have them returning from their journey. They just defeated the Demon King. And we have Hyder, the
Hyder.
priest,
Yeah.
Himmel, the hero,
Himmel, the hero.
which is who we that's our timeline based off. It's Himmel time, Himmel death time.
What time is it? It's Himmel time.
Oh my gosh.
Himmel time.
And we have Eisen, the dwarf, and we
Yeah.
have Frieren, the elf mage.
Yeah. So, a quick question:
Sure.
Why is Himmel the hero, not like the knight?
Probably because he's like the leader of the party. Maybe?
Okay. I was a little confused. That thought just popped into my head. I was like, why isn't he like a knight? And why is the dwarf the warrior? The little unconventional little party we have here, or fellowship of adventurers. Just saying. Because I don't know. I never got this sense that Himmel was the leader of the group while reading this first volume.
That's true. I mean, obviously, he kind of was just as we go further into it. I mean, the first chapter, I didn't really feel that way either.
Yeah.
And I don't know. The first chapter, we really didn't have anything because I guess they were coming back, so it was more of a disbanding things were happening.
Which is really interesting from other fantasy manga. We start out our journey, but like you said before in our previous recording, we're ending our journey.
Right.
With our adventurers, and they're trying to figure out what exactly they want to do after their journey ends, like get a job, do this, do that. I don't know, whatever,
Right.
Yeah.
Which
is, yeah, go ahead.
Which the only character we really follow on all of that stuff is Frieren and her going out trying to find different kinds of magic.
Yes, that is true.
Which, just thinking about it, we're never actually told if she finds any other kinds of magic. Like, we have to assume that, but...
Well, isn't she looking for, like, grimoires?
Well, she's looking for anything. A scroll, just any way, if somebody can teach it to her, by word of mouth, whatever it is that somebody can actually send to her, basically.
Yeah, she wants to absorb the knowledge of magic.
Yeah, then she'll take on the job or whatever.
Yeah.
But like I said, we're never actually told that she finds any of that out. And we do know kind of in a timeline because they see a shooting star shower thing that comes once every 50 years.
Yeah.
And it shows when they returned. That night was before everybody left.
But before that, we get that's been 10 years since their journey has begun.
Right.
And we get some little reminiscing about what happened beforehand when they started their journey. And we find out that they only got like 10 copper coins each, I believe. And they almost died not even starting their journey because they offended the king. But now they're having a statue built in their honor to congratulate them for defeating the Demon King, which is really funny. I love this picture or this panel right here where you have the dwarf and the Himmel, the hero, in the background, getting ready to get their heads cut off, and they're like, "Oh, I'll lick your boots, King!" And they're trying to like not get themselves killed.
Right. Which
And then,
I kind of wonder if anyone insulting the king is kind of what put the party on the track to go defeat the Demon King. Like they had to pay off some kind of debt or something.
I don't know. That's interesting to think of. Maybe we'll find out later. And then we find out there's one time where so the priest is a drunk. He's a dirty old priest, and they talk about how he was so drunk he couldn't help them as well, so they almost died at one time again, and we
And
see them
that happened
reminiscing in
on
a bar.
one day on a weekly basis.
Yeah, one day on a weekly basis, and he's like, "I'm drunk now," or one of them's like, "Aren't you drunk now?" Because he's so happy that they get free alcohol in
Right.
because they're the heroes. And can I just say, they're his what is it, grog or mead? His what do they call it, like a stein? It's
Yeah.
fucking huge. That thing is huge.
It's like
It's like as big as Frieren's head.
those guys whenever their wife says that they can only have one. This
Yeah,
is one.
you can only have one beer.
You can have two. This is two.
You can only have one glass of wine.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But I love this scene where they're reminiscing, and we go to the meteor shower, and they start like talking, and it's what they call it, the air meteor shower, and they say it's perfect for the dawn of a new era, because the dawn of a new era is coming, because I guess their land is at peace now because they defeated the demon lord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that leaves them to go their separate ways and what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, we have Frieren going her own path to discover more magics.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes her a really long time, and it's really weird how good she is at remembering simple dates as if it was just something she was told yesterday.
Yeah.
But she was like, "Oh, I should be able to come back because the shower is going to happen again."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so she comes back 50 years later to Himmel and everybody being older.
Can I just say,
And
I love also, before we get to that, I love the passage of time that they show in just these like couple simple pages, where it's just
yeah,
a montage of her on her journeys.
that's true.
So we have her like trudging through the snow, looking at crystals, uh, performing a magical spell, trying to pull, I think, what is it, might be Excalibur out of the ground.
Yeah.
Or like another magical sword. There's one where she's like fishing with a snowman behind her. And my favorite, she got eaten by a mimic.
Right. Again.
Again, the second
She got,
time.
she got eaten by a mimic on the journey with the hero and everybody as well.
But I love how they show the passage of time within this manga.
Yeah.
It's so quick, and they don't really over explain it. That's one thing I actually like about this manga.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. We were talking about how she was looking for Himmel.
Yeah. So she comes in and finds him. Now he doesn't have hair on his head, but he's got beard on it, or hair on his chin.
Because she's looking for the Shadow Dragon's horn, I believe.
Yeah, and she's trying to get that, and she's trying to do to have the festival as well.
Yeah,
she's trying to do both. So as she comes back, she does kind of like sit down with him and the other people. They have about a week to get to this spot where they're going to actually watch where this shower is going to happen, because she brought it up, and they all go on kind of their little journey adventure again. And at this time, Frieren was taller than her, or Himmel was taller than Frieren.
Yeah.
And now he is actually shorter than her.
He kind of looks like Master Roshi a little bit.
I was thinking he looked kind of like Marco from Howl's Moving Castle when he puts the cloak on.
Oh, I can
You
see
know,
that as I can see that as
he
well.
puts the cloak on, and when he does it, this big giant beard grows out of it
Yeah,
too.
because he has like the mustache and it's like curling, and yeah, we
Yeah,
see Himmel and we see Herder and Ensign, and they're a little older, you can tell, but Ensign I don't think ages as fast as the humans do. I
uh,
guess no.
no, and I actually thought that Hyder was older at the
Hmm.
beginning than Himmel was, I guess. So I don't know if the years just haven't been kind of Himmel or what, but I actually was putting money on that Hyder was going to pass away first.
Oh yeah, because he's a drunk.
Yeah. Well, that and I just thought he was older,
Yeah,
because
but
I think they do bring up he's like in his 30s.
but I love this. They're reminiscing and are talking about the good old times. And you see them sitting around like a campfire, and then they get to see the meteor shower again, which is really beautiful double page spread that we get to see. And they get to go on one last adventure before Himmel unfortunately passes away,
Right.
which is really sad to see. It's a little sad moment because I mean, uh, Himmel kind of played a big part within the first like couple pages, and we find out later on that Himmel has a pretty big impact on the world
Right.
throughout
That's true.
this, you know.
Well,
Eh,
and then he obviously had a big time on Frieren because we're all based off of Himmel time.
yeah, we're all based off of Himmel time, and we see these people crying for Himmel in the church, and they look at Fear and they're like, "Oh, that's the girl who traveled with Himmel? That's one of the adventurers." And they're like, "She doesn't even look sad, you know. She's so cold hearted. She just has like a blank look on her face, like just a regular, like she's not showing emotions whatsoever."
Right.
And we see this scene where she's like, "I don't really know anything about Himmel. We've traveled together for like 10 years and I didn't really know anything about him." And that's where she starts to break down and cry and I guess almost relive memories in her head of Himmel and the other adventurers. And she's like, I knew humans' lives were so short. Why didn't I try to get to know him better? So it's almost like she took lives or life in general for granted
Right.
because she is immortal.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, they'll live forever and we'll never know about most of it. So,
Yeah. And so they leave the church, and I guess Herder and Ensign are trying to comfort Fearin at this point, and he's trying to pat her head, and here Fearin is not about that. Don't touch Fearin's head, don't pat her head. She's like, I'm not a child.
yeah. I think it's because Himmel used to do that.
Yeah, Himmel used to do it. And then Herder says, "Well, I'm going to go back to the city." And then what will she kind of asks, "What will y'all do?" Herder says, and that's when we find out that Fearin is going to go look for magic again. And I don't remember what Ensign was going to do.
I don't
I
know
can't
either.
remember.
I think he was just going to go somewhere and just, live.
Yeah, and
Because I do
yeah,
know that she asked him if he'll be on the journey with her, and he
yeah,
says no. He goes. I'm still strong, but I'm too old to wield an axe anymore.
and we get this scene where Herder says to Fearin, "You're going to outlive me." And make sure to leave some booze at my grave for me, okay?
Right.
Because he's an alcoholic.
Which is, it's weird seeing how characters change because, you know,
Yeah.
like later on in one of the chapters, we do see Aizen again, and he actually lifts up a boulder, and you're like, I thought you said you couldn't swing an axe.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, we don't see his face at all
Right.
in this manga. We never see Aizen's face because it's covered by a big bushy beard. He kind of looks like Cousin It, if Cousin It was a warrior or a barbarian, I guess.
Yeah.
With a
We just see the two eyes sticking out.
yeah, we just see the two eyes sticking out. And so
So
Frieren and Aizen part ways, and then we go 20 years after the death of Himmel the hero. Uh, we see Frieren looking for a house in the forest, and she comes across a young girl who happens to help Frieren look for this particular house, and she's looking for Herder's house. And Herder is much, much older now, correct?
yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to take this part?
Yeah. So he starts talking to her, and he asks, "Will you take this orphan that he kind of adopted, Fern, um, in to be her apprentice and travel forward with it?" So that really doesn't happen,
No,
and
because Fieren's like, I don't want to fucking do this.
yeah, she's not strong enough. I'm not going to take somebody that could potentially die.
Yeah.
And he says, well, I have another task of you. I have a book. If you'll go through it and decipher it, to let me know if there's anything on living longer in this.
Yeah, a
Um,
resurrection spell or immortality spell, I believe it was.
yeah, he wanted to live a little longer
Mm-hmm.
and go from there. Really, well, in this time, he says, "Will you also basically train Fern a little bit in magic, um, and until you get ready to leave and you decipher this book? That way, we don't have to worry about her not knowing anything."
Yeah.
Which we do kind of have this confrontation with her going to see Fern, and Fern is standing on this other side of a valley trying to shoot magic across and leave a big hole in this rock that's standing there.
Yeah.
Uh,
And
and that's what,
this is like one of the only action scenes we get in the whole manga, which
yeah,
is Fern trying to shoot this big blast of energy at this boulder.
right,
Which I do like. I like this. This scene's really cool.
yeah,
It's really well drawn. Uh but Fern doesn't have, I guess, what it takes to get the distance across to hit the boulder.
yeah, like more concentration, more magic
Yeah.
prowess, I guess.
Yeah. But we do get this little, what seems to be a little connection with Frieren and Fern. And we see Frieren actually kind of teaching Fern and living with them and deciphering this grimoire, which we do get another montage, which you know how I love my montages.
Yeah,
We get that, and we see
I feel like your montages for this need like a sound.
oh, like
Dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun.
and Fern or no, sorry, Herder asks Fern how's training going, and she's like, it's going good. Nothing, I guess nothing too spectacular has happened. Uh, but we find out that Fern has been isolating herself in the forest to train, and she loves magic just as much as Frieren does. And Herder, I want to say Himmel. Herder asks, "How are you coming along with deciphering the grimoire?" And she's like, "I think I'm almost done at this." And we see Herder collapse behind Frieren, and Frieren is very shocked that this happened, and we find out that Herder does not have a lot more time to live, and
Right.
we see Frieren confront Fern to be like, "Hey, you need to go by his side. You need to be with him, like when he passes away, kind of thing."
Right.
Yeah, you want to take this next part?
Yeah. So Fern basically says, well, my best way of doing that is to prove to him that I can live on my own. And by proving that would be hitting the stone and you know, doing all that because she knows how to do everything else basically except for this. This is the
Yeah.
one thing that she just hasn't been able to accomplish yet. Um, so Farian basically does tell her, well, you do what you need to do. I'm going to try and finish up this grimoire stuff before he actually passes away. And we'll go from there.
Mm-hmm.
And so we do get to a point where he is in bed and asks Farian to come over. And you find out that he also would have made a good rogue because he kind of tricks her into
Oh, he tricks her
agreeing
hard.
agreeing to say, where is Fern at in all of this? Now, given this is also before she put the hole in the rock,
Yeah.
that we know of, and he says, where is she? She goes, well, she'd make a fine apprentice at this point, and he goes, so you'll take her on your journey with you then, basically, and so he really throws it at her in that aspect of, now that you've got her up where she's an acceptable point where an apprentice
Mm-hmm.
should be to travel with a master, kind of sort of, that's where you're at now, and so you can't deny her that anymore. You can't deny her being on the journey with you. And so
Yeah.
as his last request again, he does that. So now
Mm-hmm.
Frieren goes out trying to find Fern and does go back to the location where the rock is. And they must have just like passed each other or something like that, because she gets to where the rock is and there's a big hole in it and the rock is busted up in different places.
Yeah.
And she does make it back basically to tell Hyder, goodbye, and
Mm-hmm.
for them to continue their journey together, Farron and Fern, to go out into the world and everything.
I never noticed this. I guess I must have missed this scene where they're at Hyder's grave, and Farron pours one out for Hyder on his
Yeah.
grave.
And the funny thing with that we didn't really cover is when we see him again the first time, um, he says, "Oh, I stopped drinking. I don't do that
Yeah.
anymore."
Yeah, I don't drink anymore.
So when she brought him this booze, she's like, "Well, why don't you have some now?" He goes, "I can't. I'm too old for that."
Yeah. And so she pours one out on his grave for him.
Yeah. So this projects us into where our
26
journey with
years.
our journey with
Yeah.
Farron and Fern actually starts.
Yes. And they're at a pumpkin patch, it looks like, or a farm, helping
So
out.
that so this is 26 years. This is 6 years after what we just saw with Hyder and
Yeah.
taking Fern on as an apprentice and everything else, because it's 26 years after Himmel died.
Yeah. And we find out that they're helping out at this farm, and Fern asks, "Why are we doing all these pointless tasks and getting these weird, really ridiculous spells that don't really help us out?" Because they end up getting a spell that was it like rust off a statue or something?
Yeah.
And they're talking to this old woman who talks about some event that happened in her village, and nobody remembers the event but her. But Himmel actually saved the village, and Fern was there too. Not Fern. Frieren was there. Sorry. And
Yeah.
we see this statue where the statue is in really bad disrepair. Their forest has grown all over the statue and around it. It hasn't been taken care of. And the old lady's like, it's very unfair how we repay him. It's just very unfair, how we repay his memory for what he did to us, or what he did for us, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Which I kind of wonder too, just thinking about it, if part of the spell she's picking up are first things that she knows is going to come up.
Uh-huh.
Like
She ends up cleaning
she
the statue.
yeah, she can use the bronze cleaning part on this statue
Mm-hmm.
to go from there. And from this one, they also decide that they're going to plant some flowers because there's not magic in this town that they can learn.
Mm-hmm.
But they decide that to honor Himmel's grave statue thing here, that they can go and basically grow this flower that used to grow around this area but has now long since disappeared.
Yeah.
Um, and they end up finding out that there are like these squirrel thingies that,
They call them seed rats,
yeah,
but they look
that
like squirrels.
they do. And they actually will take the stuff and run off somewhere and go back and
Yeah.
and they take it to this old kind of um I guess it would be like an old like battle barracks kind of tower thing,
Yeah.
and they're just all growing on the top of this thing.
Yeah. That scene was really cool, how they tracked him down.
Yeah.
They followed and tracked down the squirrel rats. I don't remember what they were called. And they
Seed
follow
rat.
the seed rats, and they follow them there
Yeah.
to the old place. And we get this really cool scene where Frieren like shoots herself up in the air, and she sees all these beautiful flowers growing on top of this tower, which I like this scene. I think this scene's really cool.
Oh yeah, I mean this is one
Yeah.
of my favorite scenes.
Yeah.
Um,
So go ahead.
but now that she has gotten to she's gotten to study these flowers and whatnot, she actually knows how to get these flowers to grow.
Yeah.
So I do like that aspect of it too. Of she has to know how these are to actually make them grow.
So weren't
Um,
they gonna like recreate them with magic, if I remember correctly?
yeah,
Yeah. Okay, that's what it was.
yeah. Which
But they couldn't recreate them because they didn't have one to recreate it with.
right, because it's kind of like oh, the character from My Hero
Like
Academia that can generate matter.
cloning or making stuff.
Yeah, like you can do it, but you have to know like the ins and outs of it to actually be able to recreate it.
Yeah.
And since nobody had one, then nobody really knew how to have any of that stuff happen.
Yeah. Because
But
they weren't around, I believe.
right,
But they thought they
because
were
they
extinct.
right,
Yeah.
which is funny that they took up so much time walking around looking for these flowers, and then it almost seems like she just came up with the answer for it.
Or maybe she knew the answer. I don't know.
Yeah, but then why take all that time? That's the weird part.
I don't know. So now we're 27 years after the events of Himmel, the death of Himmel.
Yeah, so we're
We
one
get
year away from this flower stuff.
we get this weird uh exchange to where Fern is worried that they don't have any money to keep traveling because Frieren likes to buy things,
Yeah,
if I remember correctly.
she likes to buy random magical items that we're told.
Yeah. And I like this part where she's looking for was it like not cookies but like desserts. She's looking for desserts. And she gets
Yes.
pointed into a direction of this bar. It's like a dive bar of some
Yeah.
kind. And she she goes in. Frieren goes in, and Fern's following her. She's like tailing her this whole time. And she goes in, and there's like some very unsavory people here, and she's like, "I'm looking for some desserts." And
Everybody's like, "That's
like,
not who
who do
you
you?
would talk to for desserts."
Yeah, she's like, "We got plenty of desserts, and this is actually the place where they have desserts."
Not this place.
Is
These
it
people
not this
know
place?
where. No, these people know where to get dessert at.
Oh, okay. I thought it was the place to get desserts.
No,
Okay.
no, they give her like their top 10 rated things or places of where to go get the best dessert and everything else, and it ends up being this kind of place with a good sunset view and
Oh yes, that's
everything
right.
kind
Because
of on the top of this hill.
they eat the pudding.
Uh, well, I don't know if Fern does, but we know that Frieren, her favorite pudding is this Mercall,
Yeah.
something like that, Mercall pudding.
Uh huh.
Um, and we also have a little part here where she reminisces back about it
Hmm.
because she doesn't feel like she knows anybody's stuff. She doesn't know Himmel, she doesn't know Eisen, she doesn't know Hyder, and
Yeah.
she's trying to make an effort with Fern,
Hmm.
but she realizes how much like Himmel and the other people like knew what she liked. They knew what she
Yeah.
did, you
Yeah.
know. So they would bring that up, which is also another part where she's upset about not knowing these people or anything anymore because they knew her so well.
I like this part where you have them sitting at the dinner table, and we find out that it's Fern's birthday, and Farron gives her like a pin or like a brooch of some kind. I
Yeah,
think it is.
it's a like a hair.
Oh, it's a hair piece. Sorry,
Yeah,
it's for your like a hairpin.
yeah. It goes back above your ponytail.
Yeah.
So, um, but we have that whole thing, which is really weird that they picked this part out of a whole year to actually so us see the birthday party of Fern.
Yeah.
Because in the next chapter we're at 27 years
Well,
after Himmel's death.
we get this scene at the very end of this chapter where they're talking, and she's like, "I can't." Fion's like, "I can't believe you're taller than me," and she's like, Fern says, I'm already 16. I'm a young lady now," and we get this scene where obviously she is maturing into a young lady, and Fion, I think, is a little envious
Because she's
of
got because she's got boobs.
she's got boobs, and Fion doesn't have boobs.
Yeah, which is kind of a weird thing because elves are always portrayed as not really having chests, but then
But
we have some other ones like plus size elf and Tales of Wedding Rings where the elves have huge knockers, and
yeah,
it's just
but
kind of funny knowing
it
that.
also this also shows the passage of time where Fern is growing up,
Right.
and Firen is just the same Firen,
Yeah,
but
but
maybe she's growing in other ways.
the time also shows us too though how much it's been. Like
Yeah.
the next chapter starts out at 27 years. So instead of the big jumps that we were having
Hmm.
of the 20 years after Himmel's death, the 26 years after Himmel's death,
Hmm.
or so, now we know that it's slowing down and we're going by years
Yeah.
instead of leaps and bounds by covering 5 years or more.
Yeah. Totally. Totally. So in this next chapter, we have Firen and Fern, and Firen is teaching Fern how to use defensive magic. They've been doing defensive magic this whole time while they've been training. And I like this scene where she's learning defensive. She's learning the spells. Fern is, and she's like, I got this. I think I got this. And then she pulls a little switcheroo around on her. Firen does, and like makes her magic curve and hit her in the back.
Yeah, it goes up and over.
Yeah, up and over.
Yep.
Which I really like
Yeah.
in this.
which in this part, one of these attacks that we see Farron shoot at her, because she said you're going to have to know the directory and everything
Mm-hmm.
of your opponent's attacks and whatnot, because defensive magic takes so much out of you from your mana that that's all you basically can do.
Is
And so,
defensive.
yeah, instead of putting up all these little squares together into one big one, why not know how to put up maybe like an arm shield size barrier in front of all of them right as they're about to go, you know?
Yeah.
So we do have kind of that part happen. Now, out of this, she goes, well, what would you do if somebody did like a multi attack on you? What would you do? And Fern throws up an entire circular ball around her, which basically almost all depletes her magic. And that's what they talk about is
Yeah.
why throw up so many when you can throw up the right amount for an attack and
Mm-hmm.
block it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Which to me, on this part, it almost kind of seems like Farron knew what was going to happen.
You think so?
I think so. I think that she knew just because she's had 80 years to know about this, to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So they go into this town, though,
Yeah.
and the reason why she's been learning defensive magic is because there was a demon mage
Yeah.
that was causing atrocities in the town in the age of the Demon King before the heroes defeated him. And they couldn't
Yeah.
necessarily kill him, being one of the best mages, I guess, around, and had to come check his seal because they had to seal him away instead of being able to defeat him.
Yeah, because he had a special magic, I believe it was called.
Yeah, he has killing magic, so he can
Killing
shoot
magic,
out
yeah.
a magic blast that pierces through any human's defense magic or uh, magic resistant armor or equipment and can basically leave giant holes in people's bodies.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Um,
so we see Frieren and Fern at this demon. He's a demon, right?
yeah,
This demon, and he's sealed away, and they're going to release the seal.
right.
And they start uh, by talking to him, which is odd. And he actually remembers Frieren. And
Yeah,
he's like, how long has it been, Frieren? You know, it's been many years have passed. We find out it's been 80 years since they last met.
right. Which I think it's kind of funny. I mean, he is a demon, so I wonder how the age between demons, elves, and dwarves actually happened in this world.
Yeah.
Because he's like, oh, only 80?
Yeah, only 80 years it's been.
Yeah,
You know, but I like this. We get this the other action scene in this manga because we see them fighting with their spells and uh, using the magic spells that Frieren taught Fern. She's able to put up blocking uh, like barriers to block the killing magic.
right,
And this demon is very surprised that they were able to block the killing magic because nothing could actually block the magic beforehand. And we find out that magic has advanced so much from when they fought him originally. He's kind of like a pushover, it seems like.
right. Which I like the part where he kind of has his hand on his chin. He's sitting there
Oh
thinking
yeah,
about it. He goes, he starts like rattling off the stuff, kind of like a really brainy person does when they're talking about how to like like fix a cell phone or something like MacGyver style.
yeah, yeah.
And he kind of has that thing, and he goes, "Okay, well, I guess if this isn't going to work, then I'm going to do
I'm gonna
this."
try
And
this.
yeah, and he does kind of the same thing that Frieren did earlier on Fern.
Yeah,
And instead of putting the big ball and getting all of her magic depleted, Fern actually takes every blast that is coming and puts up one shield right before it hits to actually do all this stuff.
I really actually like this chapter. I think this chapter is very well done.
Yeah, which there's one part in here somewhere where I question. Okay, so the one where she puts up the shields right underneath that, it
Uh-huh.
looks like one of the blasts actually get in and she misses it, right?
Uh-huh.
And it looks like it may have hit her or whatever. And in that thing, we do have the quickness of Frieren, where she uses the Zoltrak killing magic
Uh-huh.
on our demon and kills him off.
Yeah.
And when that happens, it kind of turns around and Fern says, "Well, this is just like regular magic." Like,
Yeah.
and she goes, "Yeah, that's what it is now. It's just regular attack
It's
magic.
just regular attack magic. Yeah.
There's nothing different about it. I guess because people didn't know attack
Yeah.
magic before.
Yeah, people didn't know. That's what I also got from it as well, is people didn't know what, like, because I guess maybe magic was still in its infancy at that time,
Yeah,
and it's evolved and learned. But I really like the depiction of the magic and how they used it in this. It reminds me a lot of, honestly, Mushoku Tensei, how they use magic and stuff
yeah,
in this one. But yeah, I know
right.
I like it. And then we get this scene where we see, I guess he's like the village elder, and we find out that when they were in the village the first time, he was a little
Very
boy.
first time.
The very first time, he was a little boy, and now he's an old man because Frieren remembers the hat he was wearing. He's wearing like a straw hat, and he's
Yeah,
like, "Oh," she's like, "Oh, it's you. You're the you're the little boy who flipped up my skirt."
right.
And we get this little flashback, which is funny, where he's like, "Yay!" And he flips up her skirt, and you see Himmel, and Himmel's like, "I'm gonna kill you, you stupid brat."
I wanted to see that view.
I wanted to see that view. It's my view.
So yeah, which gives us this kind of more insight into Himmel that he might be a little bit of a pervert. So
Or he might actually had a crush on Frieren.
that's true too. Which I
Yeah,
mean, I would agree that that's probably a thing as well.
yeah. And we get this scene with them, and they're talking, and she's like, "So you're still alive?" And he says, "Yeah, and thanks to you, I can see, I can. It seems I can live longer. I'm glad. I believed in the words of Himmel the hero. It's worth the wait.
Yeah,
And they see Fern and Frieren go off and go off on their next adventure. And now it's 28 years have passed
right.
since the last chapter, and we see they,
Just a year's passed since the
yeah,
last chapter.
sorry, a year has passed. Sorry.
Yeah,
Eh,
because you have to like subtract it off of there because every one right now we keep going is just 1 year.
Yeah,
So
true. Yeah,
yeah, because we're all basing it off of when Himmel died, which
and
is
they're on like a beach, and the beach looks like it got attacked, and they're trying to help repair what happened to this village, and they get this book, and as a reward, it's a grimoire, and the grimoire happens to be fake.
right,
The It's not
right.
real.
And we find out that this grimoire came from Mage Flamme,
Yeah, Flamme. That's one of the ones I had to put in the Google Translate.
and Mage Flamme is actually who taught
Frieren.
Frieren, yeah, how to do magic.
Yeah, yeah. We do find that out, which I it kind of it, my theory kind of gets revealed later on in this book, but my thought was, are there a bunch of bootleg grimoires just around? So like a whole market of bootleg like magical books.
Right. Well, and the other weird thing is it really seems like unless it was like a small time mage,
Uh-huh.
which so hopping back to the last chapter where we had this demon that had the killing spell.
Mm-hmm.
we do bring up, and all these other spells that were given to them, the rust cleaning spell or whatever, the other ones that we got early on in their journey,
Uh-huh.
really seem like those were the things that many mages knew,
Yeah.
which is why I think this killing magic was so strange at the time,
Mm-hmm.
because everybody else had magic for convenience.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I have a job to make my job easier. This is what I want magic for. And that's where it kind of grew out of. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's why a lot of these people didn't really know how to do anything with this killing magic, which is why the
Yeah.
guy was so strong.
Yeah.
Then they put their efforts towards this defensive magic and everything
Mm-hmm.
as it went. Um, so I really think that maybe Flamme was one of the first big leading wizards or mages that people knew about, that actually
Mm-hmm.
had all this paperwork and stuff that they put out. And because of that is why there's so many fakes out in the world.
Do you think she put out the fakes?
Flamme?
Yeah.
No. I really think that uh, people probably just grabbed like books or whatever and either recovered them,
Mm-hmm.
or somebody sat there and just wrote in it, for a rainy day like this and said, hey, because the other thing is, spell books and grimoires and stuff at the time probably weren't always filled out, you know,
Yeah.
and mages and things like that probably remember all their spells that they've come up with. And as gifts, probably would say, here, townspeople have this, when the next wizard comes or somebody, or if you have somebody that knows magic, and they have to do something with this, give them this. It will kind of talk them through it. Uh, so, I mean, I think that it would have been very easy for people to come up with these fake grimoires, um, you know, in the future.
Yeah. Well, and in this village that they're in, they're helping clean up the remnants of whatever happened here. I don't remember what exactly happened. I,
Um,
I want to say it might have been like a storm.
I don't know. I don't think anything happened here. I think it's just the fact of this is where a lot of debris washes up in this area,
Okay.
and after people weren't able to clean it up anymore, it just got worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, we find out that Fern actually takes care of Frieren, and she like wakes her up every day, gets her dressed, brushes her hair, feeds her, like is almost like Fieren's like personal assistant.
Yeah. Or like
With
what they mentioned in this chapter, like her mom.
her mom, her mom. And we get another montage of them using their magic. They pull a boat out of the water, and we get a scene that reminds me a lot of the Goonies,
Yeah.
where they
Where
see
they
the
walk in
skeleton.
on the
They walk,
skeleton
yeah, they walk
captain.
in on the skeleton, and they're
Yeah.
like, ugh, which I like my montages. Just saying.
Yeah. Well, so uh we have the reason why the guy wanted this cleaned up was because there was a sunset,
Hmm.
and he wanted her to see it, and I kind of wonder if he knew about her not seeing it the last time or
You
not.
think so? You think so?
He may have. I mean, he might be like the rest of these other kids that at the time they were a kid and didn't know it.
Yeah.
Um, but she never, as lazy as she never actually saw the last sunrise.
Uh huh.
When Himmel and everybody would have been through this town, she slept in, and they wanted her to go to it, but she was more selfish back then. At this
Uh huh.
point, she has woken up and did see it, and is like, I don't understand the majesty of it, basically.
Yeah.
But something made her happy about it because she did smile, and Fern does point this out.
I think it's because she was probably there with Fern.
Probably.
I think she doesn't like to show it, but I think she does probably care for Fern in like a friend kind of way.
Well, master
almost,
apprentice,
yeah, like master apprentice kind of thing, in what she didn't really have with the other adventurers
Yeah,
that she's a part of. She seemed very standoffish. I
yeah.
guess you could
Which,
say with
here's another thing that I think, because she's brought it up like 2 or 3 times now,
uh-huh.
that she wants to go in and see all this stuff of Himmel. She wants to know if those memories actually make her care, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's something she brings up and says, and they're memories that she wants to know if she doesn't care to forget them or if she wants to remember them and doesn't want to forget them.
Yeah.
And I think in her advance to try and keep up with this stuff with Himmel, is she is finding out more and more and more that Fern is also somebody she's trying to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like at the start of all this stuff, she's like, okay, Fern is just the assistant. That's it. All see the same stuff she sees. None of it really matters because, off of her perspective, it's the same as Fern's perspective.
Yeah.
Nothing's ever going to be different. Feelings don't play into it, anything like that. So an experience is exactly the same no matter what because of how kind of just blah she is. She has almost
Yeah.
no emotion. And she just wants to go after all the stuff for Himmel. And I think slowly, especially with this chapter, we are seeing where she's like, well, it's not so much the experience of tracking down what somebody might have thought before, but it's
Mm-hmm.
also enjoying it with the current people you're with.
Yeah.
So,
True that. So we skip ahead another year. Another year has gone by.
it doesn't say that. So I don't know. That kind of
Uh,
is what threw me off on the next one.
sorry, I jumped a couple pages. We're actually on a flashback.
Yeah.
We're talking with Herder and Eisen and Frieren are talking about death. I'm guessing
Yeah.
Himmel has already died at this point.
You
In
mean
in the
Heiner?
in No, sorry, Himmel's alive. Himmel's alive. Sorry,
Yeah.
but they're talking about death and like what happens after death. Where does the soul go? Very much, very much like what normal people talk about.
Yeah.
Uh, like because death is very much a mystery to everybody, but some people believe in heaven. Some people don't believe in heaven. And we get this real nice scene where Herder does believe that there is a place beyond, and we start to see that also. Ensign also believes and also prays for the souls that have died at this point because they look like they buried two people
Hmm.
on their adventure. Uh, but it's a really interesting scene on how almost faith or their faith plays into this story,
Hmm.
and how you see all three of them or all of them are praying, but it kind of takes a little bit for everybody to come around to that. Like I don't
Right.
know if they're just doing it for Herder, to pay
Yeah.
respects.
Well, and then the weird thing is with him knowing like the stuff that he said on his deathbed, he didn't care about a lot of things when he was younger.
Yeah.
He didn't care about his health, he didn't care about anything else. And I think that's kind of where he wanted a little more time to live is because he probably thinks he ruined his life when he was younger.
Yeah. He
So,
he definitely probably took life for granted.
right, especially drinking all the time.
Yeah. As they call him, the a bad priest or corrupt priest, I think it was.
Yeah.
They called him
Yeah.
because he's not your typical priest.
Yeah.
But
So,
go ahead.
where you said before this is 28 years, we're still in the same year.
Are we?
We are. I just went
Okay.
back and looked from the boat chapter
Okay, so we're
of them
still in the
cleaning.
same year. Okay.
Yeah, which is weird.
It's weird.
So I wonder if this really wasn't that far from where they left.
Possibly. You know.
But We know that it has almost been 30 years as well
But we meet up with Aizen
for
again.
Aizen, yeah.
Yeah, we meet up with Aizen.
Because, she hasn't seen Aizen since she said goodbye to him and Hyder earlier.
Yeah, so it's been quite a long couple years, I guess.
30, almost.
30 years almost?
Yep.
Yeah, because Fern wasn't with them when they said goodbye the previous time.
Right.
Okay, yeah, I got kind of confused a little bit there.
Yeah. But we do have where Aizen does basically know just as much as if he was there because of Hyder actually sending Aizen letters and stuff, exchanging them for them to talk and keep in contact.
And Aizen has been looking for Flom's grimoires.
Yeah, Flames.
Yeah, sorry, Flame's grimoires to give to Fern, or to give to Frieren, because she was
Yeah.
looking for them as well.
Mm, she wasn't. She was just getting them as payment.
Okay.
Yeah. But Aizen started it because he knew that when Himmel died, that there was something more to Frieren's, um, how Frieren felt about him, I guess,
Uh-huh.
and how she felt kind of about the whole situation, which is also why he was trying to find Flame's notes on that because she was one of the only um, mages that knew some things like that. But at the same time, he had to get information from Hyder, I guess, because of where he worked at in the Holy City or whatever it was.
Yeah. Yeah, and they go to find Flame's they're looking for a specific tree, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, a big treat.
A big tree. A big tree. They find this big tree, and we come to the realization, or the uh we get revealed to us that Frieren was actually Flame's student,
Right.
and she studied under her. They even helped her plant the big tree, and the
When,
tree like
when it
grows
was a
up around the
sapling.
house. Yeah, when it's a
Yeah, when it was a
sapling,
sapling.
it was a
Yeah.
sapling 1,000 years ago, and it like grew up around the house, which was really cool.
Yeah.
And Fern's a little shocked that she was she was around at that time. She's like,
Yeah.
you obviously must be old. She kind of cracks jokes about her, and they find was it they find a spell to talk to the dead? Was it?
Uh, I believe so.
Yeah,
Or like part of one. And that the rest of it is actually towards the northern area, which is now the Demon King's old castle.
yeah. So they're going to trek back to where the adventure originally ended, with they're going to the demon castle to try to find the spell to talk to, or potentially talk to, the dead.
Right.
That's what I got out of it.
Right. Yeah. No, I did
And,
too.
and that's where our manga ends. That's where the manga ends. So let's give our thoughts on this. What are your thoughts on this first volume?
Um, it is good up to the last chapter, and now I feel like I'm lost because why would we go back to the place we started at?
Explain, explain.
Like it's just kind of like we're going on a big wild goose chase to come full circle on, hey, so now we have to come back to where you were first taught, where you helped plant this tree and all this other stuff for your master.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, we have to do that to go back to seeing where this place is, because we're trying to see Himmel, to go back to where the Demon King's castle is.
Mm-hmm.
you know, on top of, if we think about the beginning of the chapter, going back to this little hut that they prayed for these people at before, it's really
Uh-huh.
all of it's going back to some place.
So it's been like 30 years since they killed the Demon King.
Right.
Do you think a new Demon King has popped up? Do you think we'll see a new Demon King?
Actually, it's been 80 years since the Demon King.
Sorry, 80 years. Sorry,
Yeah,
80
or
years.
or maybe a little over that.
Yeah.
Because it was 80 years when we killed the demon, and I think how 2 years, 1 or 2 years have taken place, so it's about 81, 82.
Yeah. Do you think we'll see a new Demon King, or maybe the old Demon King will be resurrected?
I don't know, but I do think that maybe if those aren't possibilities, that there will be a spot where his soul will still be there,
Uh-huh.
and that she'll talk to like part of the demons or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, so
So I don't think this manga was bad.
true.
I I think it was different. It very much subverted my expectations of what I
Yeah.
expected from a fantasy manga, and
Right.
it was so much like out of left field of what I expected. I did up enjoying it. I enjoyed Frieren. I enjoyed like her relationship growing with Fern and seeing
Yeah.
how it intertwined with her past
Yeah.
because she's been alive for so long. She's bound to interweave throughout her new adventure,
Right.
um and it's interesting to see from where she started, just from where we end in this first book, how much she's grown, like development wise as a character, and how she's changed. She's not as standoffish, it seems like.
Right.
I'm interested to see where this goes. I
Right.
think I need another book, another volume to truly make my uh decision on where, if I want to continue this book.
Right.
Like it's not bad. It's not bad. Like even though I'm saying like, I need another book, but it's just the way it was laid out. It
Yeah.
was almost a little slice of life ish.
Yeah. I agree, and I think it is kind of weird. I mean, I really like fantasy, so I probably will continue to pick it up.
Yeah.
But I also feel like it's kind of like Dragon Ghost House Hunting, which is in a gray area as well,
Hmm.
because as you're reading it, you kind of get the feeling of how you can see the story unfold, I guess, to some extent. And I don't really see this one like having a very, very long runtime, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because there's going to be probably a finite end.
Right. You
It,
know,
it's not. It doesn't seem like one of those ones that's going to go on forever,
right.
like a One Piece.
Right.
You know,
So,
um, but I did enjoy it. I like how they showed the passage of time and how like are the characters like aged and progressed as
right.
well.
Right.
That's something that we don't normally get in manga, and I liked that we did deal with death. Like there was consequences in the book. It's just like everybody is not happy, fine, hunky dory all the time. Our characters did have problems. Like Herder was an alcoholic. And I
Right.
don't really know if Himmel had anything. He had a thing for Frieren, I guess.
Right.
But
Well, and I kind of wonder if he also was kind of like a womanizer, but not, because he had a
yeah,
lot of women that loved him. And I wonder if it was like, hey, let's hook up. I have to continue my journey or whatever, though. and he always had that secret love for Frieren, or if he was just the whole time kind of he loved her and wanted to be with her because she was part of his party and she was with him the whole time. But, was he what else was he doing basically?
Yeah, and I find it's interesting that the manga does tackle like some real world issues in
Yeah.
the form of death itself, because I mean, like it or not, like death is inevitable, and we all have to come to terms with that as we age and as we get older and stuff like that, and it's something that like we have to like deal with. So it's really interesting to see how they deal with how they deal with death, and how somebody who is immortal deals with death even though they can't die themselves.
Right.
So it's a really interesting concept
Yeah.
to bring into a manga. Like, it's good. It was an interesting read. It's definitely one of those manga that makes you think.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah. But as always,
So
guys,
so are you happy you read it?
yeah.
We gonna read more of it? We're gonna cover volume 2.
Yeah, like years in the future.
Okay. Okay.
we gotta keep the timing right with the book, 30 years in the future, and then we can cover.
Well, what would you rate the first volume?
What would I rate the first volume? I would probably give it a 3.5 out of 5.
I would probably do the same as well. Like, I enjoyed it, but I need more.
Yeah, there wasn't.
So,
I didn't really feel like there was much for me to sink my teeth into. Like I like the characters and
I
things
f-
like
I
that.
f- I feel like towards the end you can start to sink your teeth into stuff a little
Yeah,
bit. Like,
but
you,
but then at the same time, I do feel like it's all just kind of a telltale kind of legend thing. Like we're hearing about this elf who's uncertain about her traveling companions and how they passed away and not spending enough time with them. But at the same time, we could almost get another aspect of out of it where that stuff doesn't even matter.
yeah, yeah,
So,
true that.
and we don't exactly know what she feels about him. Like we have had where Frieren has cried and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, but she doesn't know why she cries.
Mm-hmm.
So I really feel like maybe the last little thing, and this could end up book 2 or book 3. We don't know that.
Yeah,
But where she actually emotionally cries and maybe she does get to talk to him again or something.
yeah,
So, I mean, anything like that could be right around the corner. Or her maybe getting to do that and Hamel being just a small thing to her instead of how we talked about it earlier, and her realizing that, well, he lived his life, he's passed away now, but that Fern is the person that she has come to truly care about.
so I just looked this up
Yeah,
on the Wikipedia,
yeah,
and at the moment it is at 6 volumes and ongoing.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So we have at least 6 volumes of material so far. I could see this going for like 10 volumes and ending possibly.
I don't know.
One gripe and one nitpick I want a little bit more action. Just a little bit more.
Right?
A little bit, just sprinkle a little bit more action in there. I'll be fine. You know.
Well, it's slice of life.
Actually, it's actually
It's fantasy slice of
it's
life,
like
buddy.
it's like fantasy, like drama adventure. That's what it was labeled as.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah.
So I don't know.
But
I don't know if it really is slice of life, because It's classified as a shonen manga.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it says adventure, drama, fantasy are the genres that it's in.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I recommend if you're looking for a good fantasy book, check it out. It's interesting.
yeah.
It's definitely worth the check out, and it's not your typical fantasy manga that
Right.
we get normally. So that's why it does get points for that. It definitely does not revolve around the tropes of the fantasy manga that we normally get.
Yeah.
It kind of twists and breaks them a little bit.
That's true.
But
That
yeah,
is very true.
definitely check out this manga if you're looking for it. It's published by Viz. Volume 2 is already out at the moment. We're gonna probably have to go pick that one up. Just saying. But yeah, if you want to contact us, you can do so at otakuologypodcast@gmail.com. You can do so on our Instagram or our Twitter. You can send us a voicemail at anchor.fm/otakuology. Down below, there'll be a link in the description, as well as it would help if you rate and review our podcast. That would be helpful. If you send us a review, we will gladly read your review on the podcast. If you have any questions, we'll do an Ask Us Anything again and have fun with that. Maybe we'll get more questions this time. Who knows?
Right.
But as always, thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. This is episode 2 of season 2.
Yeah.
Technically, it's episode 52. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. And if you have any topics you'd like us to cover, please let us know.
Right.
Please let us know. Or if you want us to interview some people from other podcasts or other creators, let us know who you would like us to interview. We don't turn down anybody for an interview. Anybody can come on and talk to us. It is what it
Yeah.
is. Yeah. But as always, Jin,
We'll see you next Tuesday.
we'll see you next Tuesday.